Michael will nominate. We'll get a second.
Good afternoon. We are going to call this meeting to order of the City of Urbana's it's the Tax Increment Finance Joint Review Board. I'm Kimberly Smith. I am the Community Development Services Director. We're going to do a quick little round of staff introductions. We have Hillary Ortiz, who is our executive assistant. She's helping administer the Enterprise Zone in the Think Urbana program. She is over here. Stephanie McMahon, who is our previous ED supervisor and our TIF administrator. She has taken a position with an economic development organization in another county, so she is not with us. We also have Carol Mitten, our city administrator. She will be presenting. And as housekeeping, which I'm probably not doing myself, make sure that your mic is always on and you're always leaning forward when you are speaking. So we are going to begin with a roll call, beginning with the mayor.
Present.
Paul Pawlowski.
Present.
If I say a name incorrectly, please tell me. Michael Walker.
Present.
Travis Woodcock.
Present.
Ivana Owana.
Present.
Brock Martin.
Present.
Michelle Wright.
Present.
Okay. It might be a good idea, I should mention who everyone is from. I should have done that the first time. From Urbana School District is Paul. The Urbana Park District is Michael Walker. Champaign County, Travis Woodcock. Cunningham Township, Ivana Owana. And Champaign County Forest Preserve, Brock Martin. And the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District, Michelle Wright. And, of course, the mayor. And, all right, so next, we need to nominate a community member. We do have somebody in front of us named Laura Orcutt. And could I have somebody make a motion to nominate her?
Nominate Laura Orcutt as the public member.
I'll second that.
And so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So that motion passes, and thank you. Now we need to nominate a chairperson, and
I would like to nominate Mayor Marlin.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And that carries. And I now officially turn this meeting over to the mayor.
Thank you, Kimberly. We'll move on to review of the minutes from the February 9th, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Are there any substantive changes or corrections that you can see? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes. We'll go on to public comment. This is an opportunity for any members of the public in attendance to address the board. Seeing none in the audience, we'll move on to the presentation and overview of the tax increment financing district activities and projects. Carol Mitten.
Thank you. I just have a few slides and then more than happy to take questions. This is just intended to give an overview. So this slide has a lot of words on it, but it's basically just to give the background of what a tax increment financing district is intended to do.
Carol, could you move the mic a little bit closer?
I can certainly do that.
Thank
So in general, what we do is when the TIF is formed, we sequester money over a base amount, tax dollars that are generated by the properties within the district. And the idea is that those monies are spent to then enhance the EAV within the tax district to a greater extent than would have happened naturally. And then and those monies are controlled by the city on behalf of all of the taxing districts, and we make investments and report on those annually. And then at the end of the TIF, then all of that increment then just flows back to the taxing partners in proportion. So that's what we're here to talk about, actually. So that's just an overview. If anyone has any questions, I can try and answer those. So this past year, at the end of 2022, TIF 2 closed. It expired on December 31st, 2022. And you can see here, TIF 2 is the sort of manila-colored, yellow-colored area. It had been, the heart of TIF 2 had been put into central TIF. So if you look at the figures there about the increment, I mean, the term of the TIF overall was 35 years, and it looks like there was just a 94% increase. Well, that's deceptive just because the middle of TIF 2 was transferred into central TIF. So just want to make sure people understand how that happened and why that looked like it didn't perform very well. As of February 2023, we transferred the balance in TIF 2 to central TIF. Now I want to talk a little bit about TIF 4, and TIF 4 extends up Cunningham Avenue. It's the sort of purple color that's on the slide. TIF 4 will expire within the next 2 years if it's not extended. We've seen a 232% increase in the EAV in TIF 4, and TIF 4 has a pretty healthy balance in it. Over the last few years, we've really tried to target this area for a new hotel that would accommodate the increase in demand related to the Rantoul Family Sports Complex, and we haven't been successful in doing that, which is frustrating. Even I think Rantoul has been struggling to get their hotels open, and they're sort of at ground zero up there. So I think it's a worthwhile effort to continue. We just don't know how successful we'll be because of the economics of building new hotels. One thing I want to say, too, about this area is we have several large property owners who are not particularly active in marketing their property. So Frasca is a big owner, and they're open to development. They're just not actively seeking it. So they just hey, you want to bring us a development? We're happy to entertain that. But it just makes it that much harder because we're not geared towards really marketing other than on a selective basis. And then another one where we've actually had some success is Blaine's Farm and Fleet, which owns a lot of land up there. They hadn't really been actively marketing their outlots, and they weren't even aware of the fact that the broker that they had hired wasn't advertising their properties anymore. So that we resolved that with them, and they actually have built on one of the outlots up there, Caliber Collision. I'm not sure they're open yet, but I think you get there from Airport Road. We've also been trying to attract a truck stop up to this area. And it's very challenging because the corner that makes the most sense is the corner of the intersection of 45 and the interstate. It's the northeast corner, but the road configuration there is not attractive for a truck stop. And aside from investing an awful lot of money and not knowing about whether we would be successful, trying to do a road reconfiguration up there doesn't seem to make sense to us. So just, that's part of the challenge of that particular TIF. So some of the things that have been paid out of TIF 4, we pay annually to the Urbana Park District. We do reimbursement for parks in the Cunningham Avenue corridor redevelopment area. And so we made almost $200,000 reimbursement to Urbana Park District last year. And they spend money on parks that are in this TIF 4 area that include Ambucks, Chief Schmager, and the Judge Weber, I guess Dog Park is separate over on Perkins Road. We also make an annual payment to the Urbana School District for vocational training workforce development. That was almost $170,000 last year. And then, oops, I think so some of the other TIF 4 activities that we've had is we pay for some of our economic development salaries out of TIF 4, and we've done some marketing, and we made a final payment on the mixed-use path that was built there. But because the TIF is coming closer to conclusion, and again, you know, we really haven't decided whether we want to attempt to extend that TIF. We've tried to be really thoughtful about maybe making investments into infrastructure up there. So we do have in upcoming expenses. There's been flooding at Perkins Road and Country Club Road, so we'll be making some investments to eliminate that flooding. We're doing planning for sidewalk upgrades, street light upgrades, and filling in gaps, and then also just some overall road improvements and street patching. And we continue to market and set aside funds to do one or more redevelopment agreements in the area, but we just haven't had any that we've been able to land that makes sense. So we continue on with TIF 4. But like I said, it's been good. It has a healthy balance, which means that the efforts were worthwhile because it has generated a lot of increment. And then finally, where all the action is Central TIF. And so Central TIF is relatively recently created. And so far, we've only seen a 62% increase in the EAV, but the TIF is still young. And you'll see that, you know, we had almost a little over $2.8 million of transfers in, and most of that came from the closure of TIF 2. So a couple of activities that I want to report on to you out of Central TIF is we created we used to do business grants, and those were for new businesses. They might be a couple $1,000s, and there wasn't a particularly big hurdle that you had to get over in order to qualify for one of those grants. But we weren't having good success with all of those businesses staying in business. So they helped people get started, didn't help people stay in business. So we decided to ask people what would be more helpful, talking to both some of the business owners, but also some of the landlords involved. And so one of the things that we developed, the ED staff brainstormed a signage grant program, which has actually been really popular. And so the idea is that we reimburse a certain amount, I think it's up to $5,000, or I think it's $5,000 of a new sign. So that the owner has to invest money, and we invest money, and it's all about improving the look of the area in Central TIF. So we have a lot of interesting new businesses and some existing businesses. One of them that I had to look up, I thought it was interesting, was Grow 5. Grow 5, you'll see it's at 405 North Broadway. That's right across from New Era. And so if you want to grow your own marijuana, they'll help you do that. And they have all the hydroponic equipment and so forth. So I thought that was kind of fun. I'm going to speak about Best of Africa in just a second. They got a signage grant too, but you'll see there's a number of them of these businesses in Lincoln Square Mall. So now I want to talk about Best of Africa, and there's a couple of chapters to this story. So Best of Africa was a Congolese African grocery store that then they decided they wanted to expand and have a restaurant and then ultimately have an event center. And so the money that they got through the TIF RIP to the landlord, who's Mike Hosier, you'll see on the slide, was for the restaurant and to expand and put in additional improvements. And now, unfortunately, they're out of business, and so the Best of Africa has closed. The Mama's African Kitchen, which was the restaurant, that's closed too. Now, the good thing about the way the TIF works is we make the investment in the property, not the business. So now Mike Hosier, the landlord, is marketing this space, which has kitchen equipment in it, and we have a number of interested prospects to re-tenant this space. So those TIF incentive dollars were not wasted on this investment, although it's unfortunate that the business itself that we originally thought would be there is no longer there. Another one, this is right downtown on Main Street. This is a building called Fish Alley. The person who owns the building had bought it a couple of years ago, and she renovated the second floor and was living there, and then had ideas about wanting to do something commercial on the first floor that she might actually operate. And then as it turned out, she decided to relocate with her partner to, I think, the West Coast, and so we had an opportunity to rent space. And the thing that's really super special about the tenant that went in there, the main scoop, is that it's owned by one of our employees, and it's also, they have every ice cream store that they have, which they now have 3, and we're the 3rd, is actually on Main Street. So that was just destiny for us. So the reimbursement there went to rehabilitate the commercial space on the first floor. Then the Cohen Building, this is a building that has had just gradual investment over time. More recently, you'll see the reimbursement there of almost $21,000 was for the space that's occupied by Sakura and the Japanese restaurant. They're eligible for another increment of that according to a redevelopment agreement. This was not just a TIF RIP, but they're eligible for another payment in this calendar year. I would also note that this is without incentive. The Urbana Human Resources Department is now on the 2nd floor of the Cohen Building, so we're helping to activate that space. And then they're continuing to build out their lower level space to have a speakeasy bar type of arrangement there. We had requests for reimbursement for a TIF RIP last year from the Independent Media Center. That's a challenging building because of its age, and so the latest project that they've had is a HVAC, heating, ventilating, air conditioning system upgrade, and we have a couple of reimbursements for them, and I think they also have an ADA project coming up that we may do some reimbursements for down the road. And then some of the other activities that we've had, I passed out, you'll have at your place, you have a couple of samples of our new marketing campaign, Urbana, It's a Vibe. So you can tell me afterwards what you think of our idea there. But we also spend money out of Central TIF on some of our salaries and so forth, and there's a lot of marketing that we do out of this particular TIF. And then another thing that we spent money on last year was the Downtown Public Realm Study. So you have a little slide deck, also slides there at your place. This is not, the slides that you have is not the Public Realm Study. It's sort of the initial investment based on the Public Realm Study to do things, the philosophy of it is to do things that are cheaper, lighter, quicker, and not high investment, but to try to experiment with certain things in the downtown to get more activation, see what works, see what's appealing to people. So there's a couple of areas that we're particularly focused on. One is the intersection of green and race, and we're using some property that's owned by the library, and we're using some property that's owned by the township. And then there's different ideas about activations that we're going to do coming up, and these are things that were generated, ideas that were generated in conjunction with the consultants, but to do things like creating a space where where there will be a stage and there will be seating and so forth, and then things for people to do, outdoor games, and then things, we also have this, I think, pretty cool interactive sculpture where kids can climb on it, people can take pictures there, it can be a meeting point and so forth. It'll be a focal point. And then various things that we could do to do more activation at the market at the square, just to try going forward. So those things will be implemented in the year ahead, so look for that. And then another exciting thing that we're, fingers crossed will happen in the year ahead is the opening of the Hotel Royer. By now, most of you have read the news that there's another extension request that will be coming. And so they're not done yet, but they make progress, and the hotel, several of us, all the council members have been through, and it's quite beautiful. It's very well done, and we're just super anxious for them to finish. That hotel is the subject of a redevelopment agreement, and none of the money from the redevelopment agreement will be paid to the developer until the hotel is open and operating with the Hilton Tapestry brand. So we have no money in the project yet, but we're more than happy if they can get over the finish line to do our part according to the redevelopment agreement. And then this project is listed because it's in the TIF, but there are no TIF incentives that have been requested for this project yet. This is the H Mart in the old Save-A-Lot space on Broadway. And this is a pretty big space for them. This is a 35,000 square foot space. And this will be, this is a very prominent Asian supermarket chain, but they also have a very deliberate food court that they do. They're very deliberate about how they do that. It's a sit-down food court, and then they have a lot of amenities that they offer, including they have home goods, not just food. So we're excited about that. They've applied for their building permits, right? Yes. So it's just a question of getting all the pieces and parts together. But again, they have not asked for any incentives at this point. So we're really lucky and excited to have them. And then a couple of other things that are coming up. We will be very soon issuing requests for proposals for parcels that the city owns on Illinois Street between Broadway and Vine. And in fact, the council, this relates in part to Mayor Council's strategic goals to bring housing downtown. And so they wanted to just have some input on the RFP. So we'll be talking about that this coming Monday. And equally so, if any of you are interested in commenting on the RFP, we would encourage you to do so either in person or in writing. But we think this is consistent with the direction that we've discussed over time, which is the need to attract more housing downtown for our collective benefit. And so that will be issued soon. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, this is showing it as a request for proposal. This is very draft. This, in fact, just the cover exists at the moment. This is the old school district site that they still own it for the moment on Race and Griggs. And I wanted to share a little bit of information with you about that. So the city has that property under contract from the school district. That's their old headquarters, and the property or the building is, needs to come down, and they were struggling to dispose of it. And so an opportunity presented itself that was mutually beneficial. I keep looking back at Katie in case she wants to look at me in any way, send me any signals by looking at me. We had an opportunity that was mutually beneficial, I think. So we're buying the property, and we should go to closing probably before the month is over. The purchase price is $113,000, which doesn't sound like a lot of money. But one of the things that we knew, because the building is challenging, is that it needs to be demolished. There are environmental issues, and then we've discovered some other issues too. And what I want to say is, whatever will be remedied with this property, this was always going to need to be done with TIF money. Because even if we paid nothing for it, even if a private developer paid nothing for it, the investment is so significant that it would need to be done with government support. So far we've spent almost $25,000 just to do various environmental studies. But then we will have probably in excess of $100,000 worth of asbestos abatement that we have to deal with through the demolition process. And then we'll have site remediation that could go as high as $200,000. And there's also a sewer interceptor that goes diagonally across the site and under the building. So one of the things that we plan to do with that is reroute that to the western part of the site. So it will still be on the property, but that would be it would effectively be the back, and that you could park cars on top of it, and that would mean that a replacement building would be oriented along Race Street. But that's going to cost about $200,000 also. And then the demolition and restoring the site will be about $400,000. So it's almost $1 million of additional money that needs to be invested, but it unlocks a lot of things, I think, for downtown. That will be an important other development opportunity a little farther down the road, because we have to close on the property, and then we have some work to do to get it where it needs to be in order to be developable. But those are a couple things that I think are really exciting happening downtown. Again, the emphasis, it won't be exclusively for housing. We entertain proposals of all kinds, but I think it's another wonderful housing opportunity downtown. And with that, I am going to stop talking about the TIF and see if anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Okay,
Okay.
thank you so much. With no further business before this review board, we'll stand adjourned. And then our second meeting today is the Enterprise Zone Advisory Board. You might take a minute to review the minutes while we're waiting. We good to go? Okay. All right, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the City of Urbana Enterprise Zone Advisory Board for Thursday, February 8th, 2023. Could we have a roll call vote, please? A roll call, please.
Roll call for City of Urbana, Mayor Marlin.
Here.
CU Mass Transit, Michelle Wright. Here. Cunningham Township, Ivana Owana.
Present.
Champaign County, Travis Woodcock.
Present.
Urbana Park District, Michael Walker.
Present.
Urbana School District, Paul Pulaski.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Next item is review of the minutes from the February 9th, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
I move acceptance of the minutes.
Moved by Paul Pulaski, second.
I'll second that.
seconded by Ivana Iwana. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes. Next item on the agenda is an opportunity for public input. If anyone in the audience wishes to address the Enterprise Zone Advisory Board. Seeing none, move on to the overview of the activities in the Urbana Enterprise Zone.
Hello again. Okay, this is about the Enterprise Zone. I don't have a map of the Enterprise Zone, but it's mapped in various areas around the city of Urbana. You'll see on the left-hand side the participants in the Enterprise Zone, and you'll also see that it expires at the end of 2030. So there's various property tax abatements available and sales tax exemptions available. And this next slide just shows how that sliding scale of tax abatement works depending on what type of property is involved. And then this lists the cumulative impacts that we have experienced so far with our Enterprise Zone. And you'll see it's, that's actually, the 61 projects is, I believe, for 2023 alone, not cumulative, because we have 57 houses in Think Urbana alone, so that's got to be 2023. You'll see here how the EAV has grown, which is we've burned through the 5 and 6 year projects that started early, and so we're now really gaining with the increment that we're adding. So this has been great. We had four commercial projects last year. We had the 7 Brew Coffee on University, which seems very popular. I have yet to try it, but there's always a line, so that's a good sign. We had Stone Creek Commons, which is the clubhouse out at the golf course. We had Little Hearts and Hands, which is a private school. And then we had Fasteners, et cetera, out in, I think it's on Federal Drive, and they sell industrial products, and they had an expansion. And then we had 57 houses in various subdivisions just last year participate in the Think Urbana program. And here's how it breaks out in the different areas. But then this is the thing that I think is the most interesting, which is how many single-family or duplex permits have participated, new projects in the Think Urbana program over the years, the life of the program. And so here's what's interesting to me, is based on staff's estimates, the totals, if you total up everything on this chart, that's 371 properties. Our staff has estimated that we still have about 300 properties that are either already subdivided or that could be subdivided and participate in this program that would result in another 300 units. So we're, in terms of potential, a little more than halfway there. But what's interesting about it is that in the last 3 years, the 60 plus the 69 plus 57 is about half of the overall total. So we are not even seeing, if you remember how that EAV just grew in that previous bar chart that I showed you, we still have so much potential that's ahead of us that I think it's fantastic. And then we still have the potential of like I said, approximately 300 more opportunities. So this program has been great for all the participants in the Enterprise Zone. So I think that's my last slide, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has questions about the Enterprise Zone.
Any questions?
Would I be correct to assume that the impact of this could go beyond 2030 simply because somebody builds something in 2028?
Yes.
So the taxing bodies could be affected beyond that date?
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to clarify on that, the enterprise zone is eligible to be extended for up to another 10 years, depending on the situation. However, if it's chosen not to be extended, it would stop in 2030, but existing projects that are still ongoing can reap the benefits of the program after 2030.
And I always thought one of the best advantages of this program is that it transfers with the sale of the property. So it's a great incentive for a seller and a great amenity for a buyer. Okay, well, if there are no further questions, this meeting stands adjourned. We thank you for coming.